All right, so welcome back. Today what I'm bringing to you is the cheapest dropper post that I could find on the internet. So this is a ZTTO or Zoom perhaps dropper post. It's cable operated. It's an external. So they have the internal dropper also. If you look them up, they're about $70 for this. So you look at maybe $170 to $270 is your typical going rate for a dropper post. Well, for $70, I was kind of curious as to what this would bring. I have my GT here who was like, hey buddy, I need a dropper post. So, you know, first thing first, you got to consider the height of the dropper post. This one's 100 millimeters. That seems about what they offer is the 100 millimeter one. So you have to consider the length of this, the width. So this is 30.9 for this bike, a 2000 GT XCR. There is no adjustment for air or anything on this. It's basically an office chair dropper post. So it comes with cable housing, cables already pre-installed to it. It's got a Jaguar adjuster for the cable, so I'm assuming this is supposed to be a Jaguar setup. It's got the other little fittings and whatnot that all come together to form it. Even got a barrel end to crimp on, which is pretty nice, and a thumb lever that I'm not a fan of these, although if you watch one of my previous videos on the ZTTO dropper lever, I really like that lever. It was kind of just like the wolf tooth, and for the price, about $25, you couldn't beat it. Now, because this still has the grip shifters, it might work well because it's going to fit right in here. It's not going to get in the way of the grip shifter, whereas the other dropper lever will. So I think I'm stuck with this, although, you know, time will tell. There's other styles like this, other brands make them. This is just a plastic lever. It seems like a halfway decent lever. I'm going to get this install going. I'll just give you a brief overview of the install while I'm doing it. Now you will need, for me, I need an X-Acto knife because I have to cut off some of the rubberized tape I have around some of my wires. You want some cable cutters. These are brand new, so they're nice and sharp. Wire cutters will suffice, but you got to make sure they're somewhat decent. Otherwise, you're going to wind up smashing the cable more than you actually cut the cable housing. Some Allen wrenches, and for the cable, after I cut it, I have a center punch. I just like to go in there and just make sure the end is nice and round, and some zip ties. It doesn't come with zip ties, and I need to fasten it to it. Now, it does come with some instructions in Chinese and English, so we're covered on there. The instructions aren't super involved, but it's, if you can't figure out how to install it from these, you probably shouldn't be trying to install it yourself. It does have everything numbered. It does give you references to the numbered parts. So let's get into this. All right, now for this part, you really need to figure out how you want to route this. So shortest path is nice because that's less drag on the cable on the internal. So, you know, less friction is always good as far as cable routing goes. So I can come right down here and head straight on up to here. So that's what we're going to plan for when I cut my cable housing. I thought about coming all the way down here and all the way up. That's an awful lot of routing, and who knows how it's really going to work the best. You want the least amount of bends and kinks to the cable as possible. So it's going to come off here, run right along the top tube, too easy. and housing's going to come up here and mount right to here on this. So I've also noticed that the lever is hinged, so you don't have to slide off your grips and your shifters. It just will fit right over. Now on the cable, these little plastic ends that finish it off, they just slide off. So you'll need them on there for a proper install, but you want to pull them off, trim it to however you need to, and just push it back on. So the end of the cable goes into the handle through this little ferrule here. A little hole, a little pinch bolt, a little Allen there. So it's a 2mm Allen, and that'll crimp it there. So the only place you have an end is up here. You make your own end here when you get to the grip. So little tip. So this lever's fighting me pretty good right now. I can get it into the metal ferrule, or a little end, whatever you want to call it, and it's hanging up about that far in, so it's not wanting to come through. So let's see what we can make happen here with this. There's some way to smooth that out. It should be coming up and over the hinge here and get the little cable crimp on the end. For whatever reason, it's not wanting to make that transition. Right here on this is a little bit of a lip. Just kind of smooth that out a little bit with my pick. That might be what it's getting caught on. Want to make sure all the slack's taken up. And I'll cinch this puppy on down. So I'm going to cut to the finished product on this. I'll let you know what overall I did to kind of fine tune it and get it right. Then we'll go out, we'll ride on it. Fairly heavy guy, about 260 pounds. So if it can hold me up, it'll probably hold you up. And then way down the road, we'll do a long term and see how it's doing. But right now, let's get to the finished product. All right, so she's all set. I got the lever on here. Everything's all mounted up, seats leveled, comfortable. This is a good upgrade opportunity for the ZTTO dropper, the aluminum one that I reviewed. Much nicer dropper than this little plastic jammy. The little plastic jammy gets it done, but while I'm still running the old school grip shifts, I'm just going to have to run it how it is. These are the SRAM attacks, and to have that swing on here, I'm not sure it's going to come down enough to clear the collar on the shifter. So for now, this works. I can hit it real quick and easy, and just like an office chair, it's whatever position you want to leave it in. So it's basically an infinitely adjustable dropper post. So if it's maybe a little too tall for you, it'll still work. You'd have to push it down, get on the bike first, and then bring it up and get it to where you want it. Not the greatest of things, but it's something to consider if you're willing to do that. By any means, having a dropper post is still better than having no dropper post. So for $70, we're going to take this sucker out, ride it, see what we can make it do. All right, so we're back. It's been a couple days now, and taking it for a couple rides, and I'll tell you what, this sucker's been holding up just fine. I've not had an issue with it bleeding off. I've not had issues with it not coming back up or anything. Now, the one thing I've noticed is for my bike, I'd probably be better off with about an 80mm dropper post. That's nothing against this dropper post. So what I have found is, so sometimes, yeah, I can ride with it at the 100mm length, fully extended, but just depends on the footwear I'm wearing and the riding conditions. I kind of don't want it all the way up sometimes. So I can drop it down and leave it wherever it's at, and it's perfect. Doesn't bleed off, doesn't have any issues with it. I've tried sitting down and just riding over bumpy, choppy terrain where I'm bouncing, I'm getting the rear suspension working, and I've been running this a little stiffer lately, so that might help with, you know, a good test for the dropper post. The cable routing's been just fine. The cable's been okay. The little eyelet here that it passes through is rubber, so that works nice. It doesn't interfere with this, it doesn't chafe it or anything. I've not had any other issues with the dropper lever. If you remember when I did the setup, the dropper lever initially, I was having trouble getting the cable through, and I thought about switching out to a different dropper lever like the other ZTTO that I reviewed previously. And I'll tell you, this has been working just fine. It doesn't take a whole lot of swing to activate it. It's a nice little bit of a press, nothing where it's going to be too trigger friendly, you know, or like, oops, you know, it's not too sensitive, in other words. But yeah, it's been great. I recommend it for $70. The dropper post has been flawless. Now, granted, it's only been about a solid week, so I've had a few rides in there. So, however many hours that equated to, 5-6 hours of riding time. She's been great. She's performed flawlessly. Recommend it to a few of my friends that they get this because they're a little more budget oriented, and this has been great. The issues you're gonna have as far as any dropper post is the height here and this collar here, realizing this is going to move 100 millimeters. So if you're close, you really want to watch these numbers. Now they do have, again, the internal dropper post. I'm not going to run internal here and have it all down here looking like a mess around my shock. So for me, the external worked just fine. Internal, external, same price, 100 millimeters, ZTTO dropper post. If you're on a budget and you want a dropper post, or you just have a cheaper bike and you just want to throw something at it to help upgrade it, the dropper post is arguably one of the best upgrades you can make on a bike in 2020. So consider it. I've enjoyed it. If I have any issues with it, I'll make an update video and let everybody know the issues I've had and whether I still recommend it. So hey, have fun, stay safe, and keep riding.